A young Polish nobleman walks into a room in Rome to meet a famous preacher, and walks out minutes later having decided to give up his entire future for a habit he's never worn before. This is Saint Hyacinth of Poland, priest and missionary, whose feast the church keeps on August 17, born around 1185 at Lanka Castle in Kamień, Silesia, in present-day Poland. Hyacinth came from a noble family and trained carefully in law and theology, the kind of education meant to open doors to comfort and status. Instead, traveling to Rome as part of a Polish ecclesiastical delegation, he met Saint Dominic Delaware Guzman himself, founder of the newly created Dominican order, and immediately asked to join, receiving the religious habit directly from Dominic's own hands in 1220. Back in Poland, Hyacinth threw himself into tireless preaching across his homeland before expanding into Austria, Prussia, Lithuania, Bohemia, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and lands that are now part of Russia, reportedly journeying as far as China on his most extensive missionary travels, according to some historical accounts. This relentless work among peoples still largely pagan or only recently touched by the gospel earned him the titles Apostle of Poland and Apostle of the North. Pope Clement VIII canonized him in 1594, more than 3 centuries after his death, and he's venerated today as patron of Poland and Lithuania, and of sailors and merchants. Hyacinth's life teaches that saying yes to God fully, without holding anything back, can turn one ordinary meeting into a mission that outlives its own century. On that very same day, centuries earlier, Rome was still healing from years of brutal persecution when a Greek physician found himself elected to the highest office in the church. This is Saint Eusebius, Pope, also honored on August 17, the date of his death in the year 309 or 310. Born in Greece at an unknown date, Eusebius had practiced medicine before his election, according to the Liber Pontificalis, one of the earliest surviving records on the lives of the popes. His pontificate lasted barely 4 months, between April and August, and nearly all of it was consumed by a bitter internal dispute. A cleric named Heraclius led a faction insisting that Christians who had renounced their faith under pressure during the recent persecution, but now wished to return, should be readmitted to the church with no penance required at all. Eusebius refused to soften the truth for comfort's sake, insisting instead on a genuine process of reconciliation before readmission. The quarrel grew so public and so heated that Emperor Maxentius, hoping to restore order, exiled both Eusebius and Heraclius to Sicily, where the pope died almost as soon as he arrived. His body was later carried back to Rome and buried in the catacombs of Calixtus, and the epitaph later composed by Pope Damasus I remains one of our clearest windows into this early conflict. Eusebius' life teaches that holding firm to what's right, even when it costs you everything in the moment, can still shape the church centuries later. In a very different way, another saint of this day lived her whole revolution quietly, inside the walls of a small monastery in the hills of Italy. This is Saint Clare of Montefalco, also called Clare of the Cross, abbess, whose feast also falls on August 17, the date of her death in 1308. Born around 1268 in Montefalco, in the Umbria region, into a prosperous family, Clare entered religious life while still young alongside her older sister, Joan, helping found a monastery under the rule of Saint Augustine beside the church of Santa Illuminata in 1290. When Joan died the following year, Clare was elected abbess against her own wishes, only accepting after the Bishop of Spoleto himself intervened. She went on to organize the community's life with real wisdom, assigning weaving, sewing, and garden work, remembered by those who knew her as firm in discipline yet deeply maternal toward every sister in her care. The most extraordinary part of her story came only after her death. When the nuns examined her body, they found within her own heart formations resembling the instruments of Christ's Passion, including a shape read as a column, a crown of thorns, and 3 small objects understood as nails, relics still kept today at the sanctuary of Saint Clare in Montefalco. Pope Leo XIII canonized her in 1881, nearly 600 years after she died. Clare's life teaches that a soul can carry Christ so deeply within that even death itself can't hide the proof of it. And with that, we close today's 3 saints. If any of these lives moved you, follow Saint of the Day right here on the channel, like this video, and leave a comment asking one of these saints to intercede for someone you love. Most of all, Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, because every like, every comment, and every share like that is truly a small act of evangelization. And remember, the full prayer to each of today's saints is waiting for you in the video description.